Hi everyone, it's Carolyn with Knitting in Our Jeans, and I'm CPREDMOR on Ravelry and Knitting Our Jeans on Instagram, and I've posted nothing. Really a wretched social media person. Flying solo. Elizabeth is at BookCon this weekend, and I understand that she's seeing at least one of the authors that she's really quite fond of, and she had the books in digital form, so she was going to think about which one she wanted in print form so she could get it signed. Anyway, I have not heard much from her. As you can see, I have made progress on the Knitma, and we'll talk about that. But I wanted you to see what it looks like. And some people are saying it's getting to be warm. And in fact, this week we've had all kinds of temperatures. We've had the siding people here at the house, so I've had to move my car. I've had to move the cars out into the street every morning at 7 o'clock. And one of the mornings we had frost on the cars, so I was out there scraping the windows so I could see to back the cars out onto the street. And some of the days got up to 80 degrees. Makes no sense. Today is wet and rainy. It's supposed to get up to like 55 and rain more this evening, and which is fine because the siding people also put gutters on so we can see how well the gutters are working and see if we manage to get rid of the puddle that was on the front porch stoop. Really exciting in the wintertime because you were guaranteed to slip and fall and break something. So we can make sure that they've addressed all of those issues. That would be good. I'm not using this separate camera back here that we use when Elizabeth is with me because I don't know how. So we're going to go with the very basics here. Photo booth and making the videos. Anyway, I had gotten to this point, which is what I wanted to talk about this week. And then I didn't really want to do more. Why? You know, me, it's one project at a time. I'm thinking about certain things, so I wanted to get all of you to this point, and I wanted to show you this point before I started on the sleeves, and that's what I'm going to do next. So you can see that basically the sleeve separation is mid-bust. So if you're doing your own measurement, we've gone from like sternum down to mid-bust, and on me that was 5 inches. And so I'll talk about the amount of increasing I had to do and the kind of the table that I made up to do that. And you can see I've got all kinds of ease here. So I'm going to take this off, put my breathing space on, and then we can talk about the Knitma in more detail. As you can see, I love the breathing spaces. They're comfortable. I like the colors that I chose. This is the first one I made, and I have been very happy with it. So there's my breathing space. All right, so came down to about here on the my sternum. And then I had about 5 inches to mid-bust. So at that point, I measured my sleeve width. And at that point, I had 9 inches. But the width on the original was 17 inches. So I needed 8 more inches on my sleeve to be down here at the sleeve separation. So 8 more inches in a depth of 5 inches to the bust. So the sleeve width increase was roughly 10 inches. So I had 10 times 4 stitches to the inch equals 36 inches. Actually, that's not so. I need 8 more inches. So I'll get this right. Change that. No, I'll change it in the description here. I thought I had changed it there, but no. I needed 8 more inches. So 8 inches times 4 8 times 4 is 32. So I needed 32 more stitches. And in 5 inches, and that's times 6 rows to the inch, that's 30 rows. Okay, so increase of 30 stitches, 32 stitches in 30 rows. And I decided that increasing every other row would be fine. So I was only going to get 30 stitches, or I was only going to get 30 stitches increase instead of 32. That was fine. It's going to be loose enough. The ease will be enough. And you can see as I had it on, it was. Now, the body had not finished increasing. So at row 25, which was the beginning of this week, row 24 is what we ended up with last week, I had 16 inches across the front, and I needed 21. So I needed 5 more inches. So 5 times 4 is 20 stitches in 30 rows, or an increase of 1 every 3 rows, or 2 stitches every 6 rows. And I hate having increases or changes in pattern that are off in different portions. So what I decided is I would do a body increase I could do a body increase every 4th row, but then I wasn't ending up with the right number of stitches. If I did it every row, I could have done every row. If I had more yarn, I would have done every row. In fact, if I had two more skeins of yarn, I would have increased the sleeves and the body at the same rate. I don't. I bought this yarn back in October at Jill Draper's Fest up at Rhinebeck, and I don't know if you've ever tried it, but I have tried buying yarn of different dye lots, and it's a disaster. Even with the same recipes, same maker, it's just awful. So I have to work with what I've got, and I've got 6 skeins of this Aran weight yarn. So what I decided to do was to do some body increases every other row and some every 4th row. So I made a chart, and I will include the chart in the description here. So some rows, it's just a sleeve increase, and some rows it's a body and sleeve increase. And so by the time you get down to row 30, you will have increased all the stitches that you need, or 30 stitches in the sleeve, and you will have gotten 20 stitches in the body. I promise. I really do promise. But I really like the color. Now, one of the things I was thinking about, because someone said to Elizabeth, I'd love to be making it now, but this is wool, and we're coming into summer. Well, you could see that you could make a short sleeve summer sweater out of this. You could do just a tiny collar up at the top, and you could have a longer body if you used cotton or linen. Now, cotton, I know it comes in Aran weight. I haven't tried it yet, but I think that would be interesting and fun, and something just to kind of, throw over your jeans and go sit on a boat, whatever. So something to think about is using a different kind of yarn in order to make your sweater. I mean, I love wearing wool, and except in the deepest heat of the summer, I'm wearing a lot of my sweaters. In fact, some of my summer sweaters are wool. Just happens. So what else did I do this week? I got this out again, and I have now finished this top row to here. So the top row is finished. I'm going to try to finish the top row entirely this week, as well as do my sleeves, and keep going, because I really missed this. I know that I was working overtime on my previous knitting so that I could get to working on my jewel tone, and I'm really glad I did. Yesterday was exciting. Richard caught a cold at Easter, and when he catches a cold, his neuropathy flares up. So he's had pain in his leg a lot. But he also has a worldview of not giving in, that you can work through just about anything. So he's been helping other people prepare their boats for the summer sailing season, which is really generous and really kind and something that he generally does every year. Except this year he had a cold and his neuropathy was acting up. Anyway, this week he came back from working on one of the boats and his knee was swollen. He was limping. He was limping quite a bit and he was in a lot of pain. He really hadn't noticed it while he was working on the boat because they were doing manly things. But he was limping a lot. So it was really hurting him. He wrapped it. He had wrapped it working on the boats. He had knee pads on, he had all of that, but obviously aggravated something. So it was swollen on Friday, so he's iced it, wrapped it, finally called the doctor, the surgeon, on Friday late afternoon. The office was closed, so we got the after hours person, said, keep doing what you're doing and call the office on Monday. Okay. Saturday, he was resting. And I said, gee, it's a beautiful day. Let's go down to Jones Beach and walk on the boardwalk. And he said, great. So I went up to see if I could move him along. And he's laying out on the bed. And I happened to touch his knee. Not only was it greatly swollen, but it was hot. Not good. So he called the after hours surgeon number again and was told, you need to get to the emergency room because you may have an infection in your knee. Great. So I pack one of my small purses and I have my water bottle in there and I've got my iPad so I can read something. My iPad's right up here. And we take off for the emergency room where we spent the next 2 hours having him evaluated, and luckily they didn't find any infection, and they took x-rays. He hasn't broken anything, but they gave him some antibiotics in case there's infection brewing in the knee, and he's going to call the surgeon again tomorrow. So it's always something, and I think it does speak to, it's probably a silly idea for us to think about having our own boat, at least until we figure out what's going on with his knee. Anyway, it is a beautiful day now. We've had rain. I went out to grocery shop and it was pouring rain. Now the sun's out. I'll revel in it. What the heck? Anyway, that is about it. I will keep working on the Knitma. I won't be recording next weekend because we'll be driving. We're going to be going down to Virginia to celebrate an engagement party. And then we'll be driving back, and we won't be back until Monday night. So no, I will not be recording, but I'll see you, I think, the weekend after that. And we'll be able to talk about sleeves. And one of the reasons why I do sleeves at this point is because I basically have a skein for each arm. And if I have yarn left over from the length of my sleeve, that's a bonus. And it can just be added into the body of the sweater because I rather have the sleeves the length I want, and then I can just keep knitting on the body until it looks like I'm coming to an end. And that's my plan. I'll work out how much I need for a hem, and then we'll say, well, I need to keep that much yarn, and that'll be that. So I'm having things slipped under the door to me. Anyway, so I won't see you next weekend. So weave in your ends. Have a great couple weeks, and I will be back shortly. We'll see you. Bye-bye.